Princess Catherine just made a royal move that no one saw coming. She refused to wear her coronation gown after uncovering a secret link to Queen Camilla's past. The palace is in shock. Insiders are leaking, and the coronation plans are spiraling. This isn't fashion. It's a royal rebellion, the rejection that rocked the palace. It was supposed to be a quiet fitting, one of dozens leading up to the coronation of King Charles III. But instead, Princess Catherine walked into a royal dressing suite at Clarence House, took one look at the gown presented to her and, according to an eyewitness, refused to even touch it. "I won't wear this," she allegedly said, "not after what I've just learned." The gown in question was meant to be her coronation ensemble, the most symbolic dress she would ever wear. Crafted by a renowned designer and infused with so-called royal tradition, it had been weeks in the making. But something was wrong. Something Catherine had just uncovered, and she made sure it didn't stay private for long. Within hours, whispers spread through wardrobe departments and senior royal courtiers. The tailor's suite at Windsor was locked down, with fittings suspended indefinitely. Designers were said to be furious, while stylists and advisors scrambled to find a replacement on short notice. A palace insider claimed one aide even burst into tears, saying, "This changes everything." Royal insiders were caught off guard. Catherine's refusal was not part of any prepared contingency. The Coronation Planning Committee had built months of schedule around her participation. Now, with the princess refusing her dress, the timeline was in jeopardy. "No gown, no procession," one royal historian quipped. And it wasn't just a fashion issue, it was a political message. Catherine's rejection wasn't theatrical. It was deliberate, pointed, and deeply personal. Some saw it as a direct stand against Queen Camilla, while others said it was Catherine's way of drawing a line between her and a monarchy she no longer fully trusted. "It wasn't about silk or stitches," one aide told the Telegraph. "It was about what the gown represented." What the public didn't yet know, but what palace staff already feared, was that the gown itself wasn't just traditional. It was Camilla's design, from fabric to symbolism, and Catherine had found out. Her refusal signaled more than rebellion. It signaled a break in the royal unity just days before the most symbolic ceremony in decades. The ripple effect would spread fast, and it all started with one whispered truth. This is Camilla's gown. The gown's secret history, Camilla's shadow connection. At first glance, the coronation gown looked like tradition. Ivory silk, classic embroidery, subtle royal motifs. But beneath the delicate beadwork and golden thread lay a story woven in secrecy, a gown with a direct line back to Queen Camilla herself. The designer chosen for Catherine's coronation gown was Sir Lawrence Harwood, a figure celebrated for royal commissions, but also deeply connected to Camilla's inner circle. He had previously worked on several of Camilla's personal ensembles, including her 2010 visit to the Vatican and her 70th birthday gala gown. Harwood had long been seen as Camilla's man in couture, but it went deeper. According to leaked sketches and archived documents, the original design for Catherine's gown was repurposed from an unused draft created for Camilla in 2005, shortly after her marriage to Charles. The silhouette, the stitching pattern, and even the custom lace panels were identical. The fabric itself, sourced from a French textile house favored by Camilla, was reportedly embroidered with symbols tied to her family's heraldry. The dress wasn't just a gown, it was a legacy garment, designed with Camilla's lineage in mind, then handed to Catherine, rebranded as royal tradition. The palace had hoped the origin would never surface. But Catherine found out. Insiders say it was during a routine meeting with her stylist that she questioned the odd floral emblems stitched into the sleeves. When asked, the designer hesitated. Catherine reportedly ordered a full background check on the gown's development: fabric source, sketch origin, design approval trail. What came back stunned her team. "It's not hers," one of Catherine's aides allegedly said. "It was never meant for her." When Catherine confronted the issue privately, palace officials were said to be dismissive, calling it a shared royal resource. But Catherine saw it differently, as a quiet attempt to erase her identity and place her in Camilla's shadow, quite literally draped in it. The public would never have known had she worn the dress, but her silent refusal became a scream of defiance. Now, with the gown exposed as a symbol of Camilla's past influence, the question wasn't just what Catherine would wear, it was, what else had Camilla touched that the world still didn't see? Inside the conspiracy, who engineered the gown selection? The deeper the palace looked, the darker the trail became. Princess Catherine's coronation gown hadn't simply appeared through protocol or tradition. It had been pushed through, quietly and deliberately, by a tightly knit web of Camilla's loyal insiders. And Catherine's team soon realized they'd been completely sidelined. It started with the design approval process, typically handled by Catherine's personal staff in collaboration with senior palace officials. But this time, the entire workflow had been bypassed. The initial draft had already been signed off before Catherine's team ever saw it. That alone raised red flags. Investigations revealed that Lady Felicia Breckley, a long-standing courtier and close friend of Camilla, had taken over coordination between the design house and the palace. She had previously overseen Camilla's wedding wardrobe in 2005 and was now operating under the radar as senior style consultant to the Queen Consort. According to leaked palace emails, she referred to the gown as the crown's continuity piece, a term that sent shivers through Catherine's staff. Another disturbing clue came from a trail of internal memos. One document showed direct communications between Harwood's atelier and Camilla's personal secretary, months before the project was even presented to Catherine. One sketch was even marked Initial Concept H.M. Camilla, 2005. Yet that very same design was quietly rebranded and delivered to Catherine in early 2025. "It wasn't a mistake," said a senior royal aide under anonymity. "It was a power move." Camilla's allies inside the palace have long been accused of trying to reshape the monarchy's image in her favor. From press management to event planning, she's reportedly placed loyal figures in key roles. The gown was just the latest symbol of her growing influence, and Catherine's rejection of it, an open challenge to that rise. Some royal watchers say the entire situation was a deliberate setup, a way to publicly test Catherine's compliance ahead of the coronation. Others believe it was a calculated risk, a soft power tactic to put Camilla's stamp on every part of the royal narrative. If Catherine had worn that gown, one fashion insider noted, she would have unknowingly worn Camilla's legacy. But she didn't. And now, the quiet war inside the palace wasn't just about fabric. It was about control. Catherine's objections, beyond style to symbolism. For most people, a dress is just a dress. But for Princess Catherine, this gown wasn't about appearance. It was about what it stood for. And the deeper she looked, the clearer it became. This was not just an aesthetic disagreement. It was a symbolic battleground, drenched in meaning, memory, and betrayal. From the beginning, Catherine had been wary of the gown's color palette. a pale ivory with faint gold undertones that, while traditional, felt oddly familiar. Her suspicion grew when she recognized a specific embroidered motif along the sleeves, a camellia flower, Queen Camilla's personal emblem. To Catherine, this wasn't coincidence. It was claim-staking. Behind the scenes, her advisors urged caution. Some recommended she wear the gown and let the symbolism slide, arguing that optics could be managed. Others feared that rejection might spark headlines of a royal rift. But Catherine didn't flinch. She knew her choice would be controversial, but she also knew it would be remembered. She felt like Diana would have never accepted it either, said a longtime aide. This wasn't defiance. It was protection, of identity, of legacy. Catherine's resistance went beyond personal taste. She reportedly submitted a written request to have the design altered, asking for the removal of Camilla-linked symbols, a change in the fabric supplier, and a full review of the designer's previous royal contracts. Her request was denied within 48 hours. According to internal correspondence, one royal advisor wrote, "Altering the gown now would risk undermining continuity." That phrase, undermining continuity, became the line that broke the silence. Catherine interpreted it not as protocol, but as gaslighting, an attempt to silence her under the weight of royal tradition. From that moment, her decision was final. She would not wear it. Publicly, the palace said nothing. But rumors swirled. Some claimed Catherine stormed out of a fitting. Others said she returned the gown folded in its box with a handwritten note. Whatever the truth, one message was undeniable. Catherine would not be made into a symbol for someone else's legacy. Instead, she stood as her own, quiet, unyielding, unmistakably Diana's daughter-in-law. And the world noticed. Camilla's response: fury, denial, or sabotage. Behind palace walls, Queen Camilla's reaction to Catherine's gown rejection was not calm. It was explosive. According to multiple sources, the Queen Consort was visibly enraged upon hearing that the dress had been declined, especially after learning that the decision was tied directly to her. One aide described the moment as a private storm, with Camilla allegedly saying, "She knew what she was doing." This was never about a dress. No public statement came from Camilla's office. Instead, silence. But behind the scenes, damage control began immediately. Her staff reportedly urged palace communications to downplay the story, framing it as a minor adjustment rather than a full rejection. Leaked internal emails showed discussions of redirecting press attention to other royal engagements, even pitching unity stories between Catherine and Camilla to sympathetic outlets. Still, the leaks kept coming. Insiders close to Camilla described her as feeling betrayed, insisting that the gown's symbolism had been misread and that she had only ever wanted to help modernize tradition. But other reports painted a different picture, of a queen deeply involved in every stitch of that gown, even reportedly signing off on its fabric and crest details. The idea that Catherine had exposed it publicly, without warning, was seen by Camilla's camp as an open challenge. In private, pressure mounted. Catherine was reportedly approached by a senior palace official, one long aligned with Camilla, who suggested she reconsider for the good of the crown. Some even believed the palace floated a veiled threat: either wear the gown or risk being excluded from key moments in the coronation. "This wasn't a request," said one palace insider. "It was a warning, wrapped in protocol." Catherine refused. What followed was a flurry of sabotage rumors. There were whispers that alternative gowns she requested were delayed or mysteriously cancelled. Tailors close to her team allegedly pulled out last minute, citing pressure from unnamed higher-ups. One well-known designer was reportedly told not to work with Catherine until the coronation passed. The Queen's camp publicly stayed above it all, but those in the palace knew the gloves were off. This wasn't just a fashion standoff, it was now a royal power struggle. And Catherine had made her move. Designers, tailors, and backstage drama. While the press speculated and royal watchers debated, the real war was happening behind the curtains, in design studios, private workrooms, and tight-lipped tailoring houses suddenly caught in a battle of allegiances. The head designer, Sir Lawrence Harwood, was said to be devastated by Catherine's rejection. In a leaked message to colleagues, he wrote, "I was not prepared for this. We followed every instruction given through official channels, but therein lay the problem. Those official channels were Camilla's, not Catherine's." Once the news broke, several fashion houses began pulling out of royal projects, fearful of being associated with the growing scandal. Designers loyal to Catherine reportedly received discreet warnings, phone calls, emails, even friendly advice, suggesting they steer clear of the princess until the matter was resolved. In the palace wardrobe department, tensions boiled over. Seamstresses and assistants were split. Some fiercely loyal to Catherine, others long aligned with Camilla's stylists. One unnamed staff member was overheard saying, "We're no longer dressing royals, we're dressing sides." Within days, Catherine's team began working with a secret designer, someone outside the traditional royal fashion circle. Fittings were held in private estates, not at the palace. Fabric was imported quietly under a family member's name. According to insiders, the gown created was entirely her own, with zero palace involvement. "She wanted something untainted," said a source close to the Middleton family. "No royal heraldry, no Camilla motifs, just strength, simplicity, independence." Meanwhile, the original gown remained untouched, folded in its original packaging under lock and key. The tailor assigned to it was reassigned indefinitely. Rumors say the dress has since been moved to an archive room in Windsor, labeled only as Unworn 2025. Backstage, the entire coronation wardrobe operation slowed. Every request from Catherine's side had to be triple verified, causing timeline panic among event planners. Some feared the delay could derail the whole event. The public had no idea how close the entire ceremony came to falling apart. Not because of politics or security, but because of a dress designed with the wrong woman in mind. Coronation in peril, timing, protocol, and public outcry. What began as a quiet wardrobe conflict had now spiraled into something far bigger. A full-blown royal disruption. With the coronation of King Charles III just weeks away, the entire ceremonial timeline was suddenly under threat. The refusal of a single gown had become a symbol of something much deeper. Division inside the monarchy. Planning for the coronation had been underway for over a year. Everything, from carriage routes to music selections, was meticulously timed. But Catherine's rejection threw a wrench into that precision. With no confirmed gown and her team working independently, the royal schedule started slipping. Rehearsals were delayed, coordinated photo ops were cancelled. One insider described the palace mood as chaotic and cold. Behind closed doors, government officials and church leaders grew anxious. Sources close to Westminster Abbey confirmed that coronation planners were asked to prepare for reduced royal attendance just in case. Even members of Parliament reportedly demanded briefings on whether the coronation could be executed without Princess Catherine's presence, a scenario unthinkable just weeks prior. The public reaction was swift and fiery. Once the gown story broke, first through anonymous leaks, then by foreign media outlets, the press ran with it. Headlines ranged from Catherine snubs Camilla in Coronation clash to Windsor's in wardrobe war. On social media, users debated fiercely, with hashtags like #CatherineRefuses and #NotHerGown trending for days. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with Catherine. Polls conducted within 48 hours showed 72% of respondents believed she had the right to reject the gown if it was politically or symbolically inappropriate. The backlash wasn't just directed at the palace, it fell squarely on Camilla. Commentators accused the Queen Consort of symbolic sabotage and trying to assert dominance through tradition. A coronation is about unity, said royal analyst Eloise Grant. But this feels like a tug of war in gowns and crowns. Behind palace walls, damage control continued. But the truth was out, and so was the divide. With every delayed fitting and leaked sketch, one question grew louder. Was this about a dress or a dynasty falling apart? Symbolic warfare, Diana's legacy versus Camilla's intrusion. This was never just about silk and thread. For many watching, inside the palace and across the world, this was about history repeating itself. And at the center of it all stood two women, Princess Diana and Queen Camilla, decades apart, but now colliding through symbolism stitched into a gown. Princess Catherine had always been compared to Diana, not just for her elegance, but for her quiet strength, her maternal instincts, and her deep emotional connection with the public. But when she rejected a gown tied to Camilla, that comparison deepened into something much more powerful. Catherine wasn't just echoing Diana's memory, she was defending it. The camellia emblem, hidden in the embroidery of the rejected gown, felt like a final insult to Diana's legacy. To many, it was a bold attempt to overwrite history, placing Camilla's symbolism onto the next queen consort, as if erasing the woman who had once worn that title in the people's hearts. Public reaction was intense. Letters flooded the palace, many from Diana supporters demanding the removal of any Camilla-related symbolism from future royal garments. Others called for the coronation to include a tribute to Diana, seeing Catherine's rejection as a silent protest against a system that had tried to silence her mother-in-law decades ago. "Diana was pushed aside for Camilla," said one emotional radio caller. "Now they want to wrap her daughter-in-law in the same lies?" Not again. Media headlines fed the flame. "Ghost of Diana returns," read one cover. Another ran with "Princess versus Queen." Round 2. Royal historians warned that such direct comparisons were dangerous, but it was too late. The public had chosen its sides, and most were standing with Catherine. Inside the palace, the impact was deeply felt. Some courtiers reportedly feared a public sentiment collapse if Catherine withdrew entirely. Camilla's supporters tried to pivot, suggesting the design was misunderstood, but few bought it. The symbolism was too precise, too personal. This wasn't a fashion crisis, it was a symbolic war. And the battleground? A gown designed with Camilla's past, but meant for Diana's legacy to wear. Alliance lines drawn. Who backs whom inside the palace? The gown was just the trigger. What it uncovered was something far more dangerous. A divided royal house, where loyalty no longer flowed with blood, but with politics, memory, and ambition. Once Princess Catherine stood her ground, it became clear. The palace was choosing sides. Behind the scenes, Prince William reportedly backed his wife with full force. "Whatever you need, you have it," he was quoted saying. His loyalty wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. By standing with Catherine, he also stood with Diana's memory, and against the quiet influence Camilla had built within the monarchy. Others quietly joined their camp. Princess Anne, known for her firm values and independence, was said to be privately supportive, urging behind closed doors for Catherine's decision to be respected. Even Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, reportedly sympathized, hinting that the palace had overstepped by pushing Catherine into a gown she never approved. But Camilla was not without her defenders. Lord Chamberlain Edward Fitzwilliam, one of Charles and Camilla's most trusted officials, allegedly warned Catherine's team that her refusal undermined royal continuity. Longtime Camilla loyalists in protocol and wardrobe departments dug in, claiming the design had palace approval, and changing it now would embarrass the crown. Staff were caught in the crossfire. Whisper networks flared. Leaks intensified. An unnamed courtier described the atmosphere as tense, tribal, and tracking every glance. There were even reports of internal blackmail threats, quiet warnings sent to anyone leaking private documents or speaking with the press. "This isn't about fashion anymore," one royal aide reportedly said. "It's about power, identity, and control." The battle lines were clear. On one side, tradition wrapped in secrecy. On the other, a future shaped by principle and remembrance. Catherine's gown rejection had drawn those lines with needle-sharp precision. The question now wasn't whether the family was split. It was how deep the break would go. Aftershock and legacy. What lies ahead for the monarchy? The coronation moved forward, but something had changed forever. Princess Catherine's rejection of the gown had become a defining moment, not just for her, but for the monarchy itself. She never wore the original design. Instead, she appeared in a new, elegant creation, crafted outside of palace influence with zero Camilla symbolism, and a subtle tribute to Princess Diana embroidered along the hem, a single hand-stitched forget-me-not. The public reaction was overwhelming. Social media hailed it as a silent victory, a modern stand for autonomy, respect, and historical truth. Polls taken after the ceremony showed Catherine's approval rating at an all-time high, with headlines like, "The Queen We Trust," and "Not Just Royal, Right." Within the palace, however, the consequences are still unraveling. Camilla's influence has reportedly taken a hit. Meetings are being reshuffled, titles quietly reassessed. There are whispers that Catherine may soon be given greater say in future royal ceremonial planning, and even more shockingly, some insiders suggest King Charles may consider reducing Camilla's ceremonial role to ease growing public discomfort. "This was a turning point," said royal commentator Francis Elwood. Catherine didn't just refuse a gown. She redefined what it means to stand within and against the crown. The moment also reshaped Diana's legacy. Through Catherine, her spirit re-emerged, not in confrontation, but in calm defiance. The image of Catherine walking into the coronation with strength, dignity, and her own voice has already become a symbol, a generational shift. Now, the monarchy faces a future where appearances alone won't keep the public's trust. Authenticity matters. History matters. And symbolism, more than ever, is being watched. Will Catherine's bold move lead to deeper reform within the royal family? Will Camilla's influence fade in favor of a more modern, balanced monarchy? And most importantly, will the crown finally learn that tradition without truth is no longer enough? One decision, one gown, one legacy rewritten. Catherine's quiet defiance shattered royal expectations and exposed a deeper palace power struggle. By rejecting the gown, she didn't just choose a new dress. She chose truth, legacy, and independence. The monarchy may carry on, but after this moment, it will never look the same. The crown felt her silence.